When we picture the human skeleton, we usually imagine it as dry, static architecture. We view our bones as dead scaffolding that simply holds us upright, waiting to eventually wear down and break. That structural failure happens frequently. In the United States alone, osteoporosis actively affects 50% of women and over 2 million men. Osteoporosis is a medical condition where bones become brittle and fragile from loss of tissue. When that fragile bone breaks, the downstream effects are catastrophic. If you break your hip, 50% of the time you will never return to your pre-fall level of physical independence. 30% of the time, the complications from that fracture will kill you. Low bone density is also a marker for cognitive dysfunction. Medical literature correlates bone loss directly with the progression of Alzheimer's disease. This suggests our internal framework is more deeply involved in our overall health than simple posture or movement would imply. To understand this connection, we have to look at how the body is built at the cellular level. Bone, muscle, tendon, and fat all derive from the exact same source, the mesenchymal stem cell. Mesenchymal stem cells are multipotent adult cells capable of producing multiple types of skeletal tissues. Because they share this single origin, these tissues operate as a highly connected family. They constantly communicate with one another using a shared chemical language of circulating proteins. The most crucial part of this network is the bone-brain axis. When bones are placed under intense physical stress, their building cells release osteocalcin. Osteocalcin is a protein hormone secreted by bone tissue that travels through the bloodstream to regulate metabolism and brain function. Once it reaches the brain, osteocalcin acts as a powerful neuroprotectant. It lowers cerebral inflammation and triggers the synthesis of new neurons in the hippocampus, the region of the brain responsible for forming and storing memories. Skeletal muscles operate on this exact same communication frequency. When forced into heavy, demanding contraction, your muscles release their own protective chemical signals straight into your bloodstream. Your muscle and bone operate as an internal pharmacy. These manufactured chemicals govern the long-term health and resilience of your brain. Modern sedentary living aggressively dismantles this pharmacy. Sitting at a desk all day physically robs your body of the mechanical stress required to trigger the release of those protective proteins. Biology operates on strict efficiency. Without high physical demand, the body stops manufacturing these chemicals entirely, and the internal communication network goes dark. Then comes the biological cliff of midlife. For women, the sudden drop in estrogen severely damages this network. Estrogen is a primary female sex hormone that is highly responsible for regulating and protecting bone metabolism. Your skeleton relies on estrogen to control osteoclasts. Osteoclasts are specialized cells that continuously break down and absorb old bone tissue. Without estrogen keeping them in check, these cells destroy bone much faster than your body can rebuild it. This imbalance triggers the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause. Empty estrogen receptors cascade into total body joint pain, rapid loss of lean muscle, and severe connective tissue inflammation like frozen shoulder. When we stop stressing our framework or lose the hormones that naturally regulate it, the biological communication network crashes, accelerating total physical decline. The decline we associate with aging often stems from a lack of specific biological signals. We can manually reboot this network through strategic stress. By applying highly specific, controlled physical trauma, we can force the skeletal system back online. First, you have to bash your bones. High-impact sports, like basketball, gymnastics, or running, send physical shockwaves straight through your skeleton. This impact forces your bones to store calcium and release those vital proteins into your bloodstream. This works across your entire lifespan. Clinical studies of senior recreational athletes show that chronic high-impact exercise allows humans to maintain extraordinarily high bone density well into their 80s. Second, you must engage in progressive resistance training. Lifting heavy weights forces your muscle fibers to secrete Klotho. Klotho is a longevity protein transcribed by muscle contraction that protects organs from deterioration and actively improves cognitive resilience. Individuals who intentionally load and stress their framework chart a totally different trajectory. They reject the standard societal path toward frailty, building dense, powerful bodies that resist decay. Initiating this intense physical stress during the critical midlife decade actively prevents the onset of prediabetes, a condition where blood sugar levels are elevated but not yet diabetic, and significantly reduces your risk of cognitive decline. You do not have to choose between a strong body and a sharp brain. By physically stressing your skeleton, you are commanding your brain to survive.